Welcome, and thank you for tuning into Voices from Afar. And I am your host, Bill Demarest. And
largest company in the world controls the most awesome goddamn propaganda book in the whole godless world. Who knows?
he knows. And that's why we're here fighting against the propaganda machine run by the powers that should not be. And just never fear or give up hope. And you will find no fear-mongering here, only the truth, and a bit of humor to help you keep your sanity in a world that's lost its mind. Welcome and greetings to another edition of Voices from Afar. This evening we have a very special guest, and as soon as I can bring him into the studio, because his producer just told me he just walked in. Anyway, tonight's show is going to be very special, and John's producer is still talking to me. He just walked in. We'll be on Skype in 2 minutes. Oh, thank you, Brendy. Thank you so very much.
And while Bill just babbles on, and we sit here, what the hell was that?
Sha-la-la-la.
Something just hit my house. Somebody just threw something at my house. Hang on.
So, Bill, any luck?
Yeah, any luck is yes. He told me he's online, and it appears on his Skype to add him to the call. I am really getting frustrated because it says to add him, and it keeps failing. Brendy, what's going on? He is restarting Skype. Thank you, Brandy. Maybe I could add Brendy to the group call.
Yeah, thanks, Brendy. Let's see if she'll help us out here.
Oh, Brandy, you're a fine girl. What a good wife you would be if you could bring John Wells closer to me.
Oh, there's Brendy.
Brendy.
Hi. I'm just going downstairs to pick up John's phone because he's going to dial you on his phone via Skype.
Okay, that doesn't help get him in the studio. That's the problem. Did he call that studio number?
No, he's going to dial you on Skype, but the Skype is for some reason is not connecting on his computer. And he left his phone in the car. He's just sent me to go in and get the phone in the car so he can dial you via Skype.
Okay.
Thank you. 2 minutes and he'll have it.
Okay, thank you. Like
Okay,
I said, bye-bye. Thank you.
Well, that's pretty bad. Are they messing with Skype? He hasn't even said anything yet.
Skype's just
They just know he's going to.
In all fairness, the internet has been a total nightmare this past 3 or 4 days. Between connections going off and messages trying to get through. Even John, just before the show, was trying to share something with us, and it was just a nightmare trying to get. I haven't seen it yet. I mean, I don't know what they're doing, but the last few days has been really bad. And when we were having our team meeting earlier on today, I was just cut off just like that. It was just Skype just totally shut down. I had to re-sign in and everything to get back on the call. I mean, it wasn't a problem because we weren't live. But in times like this, when we are live, it's not so good. It was just to bring that point up that it has been bad the last few days. And I think everybody's noticing it. Even my neighbour is noticing it. And she's not huge internet.
We've had a big hit with this solar flare.
Of course. Our guest is here. Guess who's here? Guess who's here?
Yes.
The man.
Improvise, adapt, modify, and overcome. How is everybody?
We're waiting.
Sir, yes, sir. I would like to welcome welcome. Here we go. Bring it together. Bring it together.
No, I got you doing it now.
Yeah.
Everybody take a breath.
I would like to welcome you aboard Starship Starvexer, and as captain of your own starship, Arc Midnight, I would like to pipe you aboard with Claire, our communications officer, and she did this for you, sir.
Well, thank you
Hello,
very
good
much.
people of the world, TFR, and of course the chat room. So tonight we are all very excited to bring you this show, as the guest we have for tonight has been given the voice of talk radio due to his soothing voice of talk radio that has broken the airwaves for many years. I am, of course, talking about John B. Wells, who has worked with media outlets including Coast to Coast. Over the years, has also seen pitfalls, good and bad, of this area of media and truth. I introduce to you on Voices from Afar a guest that I, for one, not sure if 2 hours will cover all the subjects he personally has researched, on top of all the great people he has interviewed himself, with independent research on his show Caravan to Midnight, which I am a personal fan of. Without further ado, I give you John B. Wells. Welcome to Voices from Afar, and a personal hello from Listy Lass in Scotland.
Yeah, baby.
Wow, that was amazing. Well, in that case, I suppose rather than stand here in the airlock, I should say permission to come aboard.
That's exactly right.
Indeed.
Permission to come aboard, sir.
Granted.
I was going to introduce you to my crew, just their names one at a time. We have Star. She is the oracle of our crew. Joy is the counselor of our crew. And we have Scottish John. We have our own Scott aboard our crew. He's not Scotty, and he is our utility man. And we are all going to just interview you per se, let's just say one at a time. And since Claire did such a great job of piping you aboard, sir, Claire, you're up, dear. Front and center.
Hi there. Very good to speak to you, especially from somebody that's just starting out on this journey in media. I fell into it. I didn't really realise what we were doing, really, and just falling into it. I personally would like to know if you've seen a decline in independent media since you started. And if so, what factors have been the problem? Has it been the contents, the sources, the credibility, or just simply people not going so far but not wanting to risk anymore, so just stop? I was just, that is one of the biggest questions, because we were just saying about the Skype problems, YouTube, things like that, just before you came on there. So I thought I'd start with one of the more difficult ones, sorry.
No, not a problem. That's actually a kind of a complex question. The thing is I see a proliferation of new sites, but some of the established alternative outfits, if you will, they seem to be in a little bit too much of a hurry to maintain some sort of dominance, whether real or imaginary. So the problem now is not so much that we don't have ample numbers of people in alternative media. In fact, I think I'm delighted to see it. But what's happened now is that mainstream is, of course, threatened. Mainstream's the money. And so they don't launch particularly sophisticated initiatives against alternative media, but they like to ridicule, of course. And the thing is that now we need to be very, very careful with the facts. We have to be very careful with the facts. And if we don't know the answer to a question, we need to just say we don't know. But we'll get back to it when we have more information. If we don't do that, then we're just going to be, those people don't know what they're talking about. You're liable to get anything over there. We need to be more professional than the so-called professionals, meaning even people who are not being paid to do what they do, because that's really all professional means. As an amateur, you do it because you love the work. Then hopefully one day you will be good enough to actually be paid for it. Well, Whether you're amateur or professional, you have to act like you're professional, like people are paying you for this, and therefore you have to give them their money's worth. And whether the money's real or imaginary, I restate, it's a tautology, I suppose. But yeah, that's the biggest problem. Yeah, that's the biggest problem, is just getting the facts straight, and not injecting these wild scenarios and just dwelling on them and just so absolutely sure you're right when you're not. For example, we didn't go anywhere near this Pizzagate thing. I am sure that criminal pedophilia is rampant throughout the halls of power, wherever they may be found, whether government or corporate, which is which. But if you don't have enough information other than Podesta's emails, which admittedly are a bit creepy, but if that's really all we have to go on, I think we should wait until we have something else before we proceed. So that's just one example.
Yeah, see, I agree with that as well. And I have a group on Facebook that's been up and running for 3 years, just exchanging news, really finding out if the news is fake, real. And I've even found problems. I mean, I used to get a lot more into the group even than what I do now, just because it takes so much more time to check things out now altogether. Any source you have to go to, quite often the source isn't in the first thing you read. You often have to go through a few things, which takes up time as well. So it isn't as easy as it was when I first started, like the group, just to put things into. So I definitely notice a difference. So you must do in all the years that you've done it. Definitely. Another question I really wanted to ask was all the great interviews you've done over the years. What's your most standout interview and your most standout guest, if it's not the same?
You know, it would be really hard to pick just one. Mm-hmm. Really would, because just recently, two people came on, Field McConnell and then Dr. David Janda, and they were both extraordinary. And Peter Vincent Pry, who is working with Homeland Security on this, what many people feel is an imminent EMP threat to our power grid. He was spectacular. Hugo Fugan was spectacular, who absolutely completely deconstructed the entire Cessna Caravan crash carrying Loretta Fuddy, and she was the only fatality. And just by the time he was finished, we spoke with him for over 7 hours. We had to make it into a 2-part program because we just couldn't let it go, and he had so much information. I wanted everybody to see it. So, and then some of the Dr. Helen Caldecott came on, and she, of course, she's an icon in the anti-nuclear thing, and so many others. Dr. Dimitra Antimisiaris, she's fabulous, and just I can't really just pick one. However, if I were going to, it would not be one that happened when I was on Caravan to Midnight, as I am now. The one that I suppose really, really stands out is an interview with the late, great Ray Bradbury. And that was on Coast to Coast back in 2008, and it was just amazing.
Okay, I'll need to go and look that one up now. I'm not familiar with that one, so I will be looking that one up now you've said that. Yeah. But having so many good people coming on, like even our show, everybody's got a piece of information. It's what you take from it yourself and what you know in your heart, I suppose, as well. Everything's open to interpretation as well, I think. So all these great independent researchers are brilliant. Independently or collectively, they're great. So I agree with you there. There's no one that even I can pick, and you've done a lot longer. But I'll be sure to look up that one that you definitely mentioned from Coast to Coast.
Well, James O'Keefe was really good too. He was on just a little over a month ago. He was excellent with the man behind Project Veritas. That was a blast talking to him.
Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah, I catch most of them on YouTube through your channel. Without fail, I always check in, see what's going on. So it's a great pleasure to speak to you tonight. I think I'm passing over back to somebody else now.
Well,
If
thanks.
Bill is there. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, just running around between 3 computers and getting stuff organized. Anyway, and I want to thank you so much, John. And I will talk to you on the other side and introduce you to the rest of our crew. And I think I can calm down now. You're in studio with us, and we did overcome. Thank you
Yes,
so
we
very
did.
much.
Yes, we did.
And we will
Fabulous.
continue to do so. Thank you, John.
Thank you, sir.
No need for sir. And welcome to the triumphant event of Starship, Starvexer, and Arc Midnight coming together in one show, one place, one time. And now, John B., I would like to introduce you to Star the Oracle.
Hello, John. I'm Star the Oracle. I'm a researcher since childhood of the prophecies, the supernatural, the paranormal, and spirituality, and a truth seeker. I'm an empath and seer, card reader, student of the natural medicines. I'm a mother of 2 daughters, former Marine and business owner. I've learned much from you and your guests over the years in my quest for all of the above mentioned. Thank you for all of that, and thank you for joining us tonight.
Well, thank you. Do I call you Star or?
No, Star is our official designation.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. My name's Sharon, but you can call me. Yeah, my name's Sharon. You can call me Star.
Okay. All right, Star. Fantastic. Well, thanks for the kind words. I appreciate it. It's good to be
You're
with you.
very welcome. Wow, dude, I've got you on the radio with me. This is like blowing my mind. Sorry, it's my true honest self there. I don't know what I sound like in my interview.
It's all, as the expression goes, it's all good, right?
It is. I say that too. It's all good. So when you took over Coast to Coast, and I'm not going to talk a whole lot about that, but I started listening to you and your voice. And so then when you started doing Caravan, as I looked you up there, and then I too catch especially I love your new segments you're doing. It's a great way to catch up. Those are awesome. So the Caravan of Midnight thing was an excellent move with all that. And I'm glad you did. And I'm glad you're still going. And now that I'm in the radio too, I'm starting to pay a different type of attention to how you do things. So that I'm picking up some perks here and there, hopefully. I don't have your voice though.
No, that would be a little unusual though. So probably just as well, yeah.
Well, obviously, yes. I've got my own voice. Not exactly comfortable with my own voice, but I have it.
No, it's great. You've got a great voice.
Oh, thank you, sir. Wow. So I don't know what to ask you. This is funny. Like UFOs or like, secret alien bases stuff, or that's still UFOs, or Sasquatches, which I fell in love with when I was a kid, or wow, what's your favorite topic, I guess?
You know what, lately, where Bigfoot is concerned, I'm always like, listen, I'm sure that they exist. Too many far-flung cultures separated by ridiculous distances have seen things like this. Mm-hmm. But until I actually see one, let's not get too crazy with it, because I want to see one. But that's probably just me. That the flying saucers, everybody knows that they're out there. The jury's still out on whether or not. Well, let's see. So what is it? Is it us coming back from the future, or is it angels and demons as depicted in Scripture? I tend to go with that. I find the Bible to be an extraordinarily supernatural book. People say I like the paranormal. It's like, really? Read the Bible. It doesn't get much more paranormal than that. But as far as nuts and bolts and stuff that humans do, I'm very curious as to why all this interest in Antarctica. What is John Kerry doing down there, and why did Buzz Aldrin go? And what's the interest? And you got people saying, "Oh no, you can't go there. Nothing goes on there." It's like, no, you can go there, and quite a bit goes on there. So I don't know. I don't know where they got that. But
what? What came to my mind? Which story was it? Was it a Superman? Was it one of them where the Titans were frozen in ice and they weren't supposed to awaken them, but they awoke the Titans, the giants, the ice demons, the ones down well, frozen, tucked far away, put down there for a reason, so nobody would touch them or find them, and then they got awoken. And I have this whole like scenario going through my head of they've done messed up something. Then you hear on the other rumor news channels that there's aliens down there, there's bases, there's a war going on, and it's all like whatever. It's not changing what I'm having for dinner, so yeah.
Hey. Well, what do you think about the hollow Earth? I'm not a supporter of the flat Earth at all. I've gained too much altitude in various aircraft to ever go with that. I can't do it. And even some people in the crew are going. Some people in the crew are good, excellent. They said, the easiest thing to do is just talk to them. It's like, and I kind of go into Merlin then, as depicted by Nicole Williams in Excalibur. I will decide who I will speak to, and if it is up to me to decide which and whatever, I'm not doing it. Even Art Bell wouldn't do it. I mean, he actually got one of them on there. We've contacted astrophysicists and all, and they're like, no, sorry, too silly. So, but this hollow Earth thing, now that's something else. I don't mean like it's a snowball like you put on your desk, one of those things where you shake it and the snow goes around. I don't mean like hollow, the whole thing's hollow. But just knowing what little I do about Wells, England, from which the family hails, there are caves there that go so deep they've never been completely explored. That is my understanding, and they discover artifacts that they can't even date. They have no idea what period, what people, or what is this. So,
wow.
And then when you go to Scripture, the devil says he spends his time walking up and down in it. It's like, really? Okay, all right. So, who knows? For a long time, people thought that the Tor, the big tower there in England, was the entrance to the underworld. There's always been this talk about the underworld. So maybe there really is an underworld, and maybe that's why we don't see are they big feet or big foots? The Yetis, the big furry guys.
Yeah.
And maybe big furry girls. Maybe they live underground. That's why you don't see them on the surface that much. I would think that you would, but something's going on in Antarctica, because I don't think it was just a packet boat ride to take the family and go and do something different. That was just, I don't understand it. Not yet, anyway. But I understand there are underground lakes. Some of them are a few thousand feet down, and the ones that they've been able to reach, they're discovering different species and different microbes, different organisms down there they haven't ever seen on the surface. And it's just about the old room temperature when it was modified to 68. I think it's 68 for winter and 72 for summer. But anyway, it's comfortable down there. It's not cold at all. So, and we know the Nazis were really interested in it too, with New Swabia land and all of that. And we know that Admiral Richard Byrd ran into a bunch of blowback when he went down there, lost a bunch of men and planes and a few ships and all that. And nobody ever said he was crazy. They said Forrestal was crazy, but of course he wasn't. He was murdered. But Richard Byrd, no, he was never deemed any kind of a medical case. So
well,
I think
we have Brooks Agnew in his show X Squared Radio on here on Truth Frequency Radio, and he is like the person that comes up when you Google Hollow Earth. He has done the studying in it, so I need to sit down and pick his brain on all of it, because I don't even have all the Hollow Earth info out of his head yet. So it'd be interesting. And we had a couple questions. Who's got a question? There's a couple in the chat. Somebody chime in. Who was it?
Okay, Claire, it's going to be like 1 o'clock in the morning before this show is over, so we're going to let Claire jump in here.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, well, it was just to go along with the flat Earth thing. A lot of it, I think, is put there to be a decisive issues to divide people, and I think a lot of the flat Earth is not just about the flat Earth, is it? It's a lot to do with the culture of the flat Earth, rather than looking at alternatives like yourself saying about hollow Earth or whatever the theory could be. It's more fixed on that one, and that's where I was just wanting to say about more like the psyop part of what we're seeing in the media at the moment, on all sides of media, mainstream as much as. And I just wondered what you thought. Just because we had mentioned flat Earth, that was the only reason I thought it was relevant to bring up there, because I do think it's one on the same slightly, but there is also a theory of flat Earth, which I do realise it's been mixed up. I was just wondering how you felt about that part of it.
Well, I entirely agree. In fact, I stated on Arc Midnight, the terrestrial adjunct to Caravan to Midnight, and many times on Caravan, that I think it is a psyop, and that psyops are not always conducted in some, really awesome, sophisticated manner. Some of them actually are quite crude, and I think this is one of those crude psyops. It's and it is a case for division, but something more. At the University of Cape Town, some genius down there has decided that all contemporary science is to be regarded as racist, and all contemporary science must be discarded because it is racist, and science needs to start over. Now, these are the same geniuses who believe that the white engineers are racist because they built the water reservoirs too big, and they simply will not fill up completely. But if they had not been racist, they would have known that the best thing to do was build a small reservoir so that it would fill up. I mean, what? It's just extraordinary, and this is the same group that burns the administration building. They want the Rhodes Scholarship. They just don't want the statue of Rhodes. And so when they finish burning the administration buildings, and they burn their dormitories, and then they insist that the citizens, the white folks, take them in because they don't have any place to live now because they set fire to it. To me, this is on a par with what the flat Earth people are doing, and I think that it actually is a psyop. These people apparently have nothing to do all day except now they're arguing with each other. So we're expected to believe that a graphic artist was let in on the big secret that the Earth is flat by NASA when he worked for them. It's like, no, they didn't let you in on anything of the sort, and then, a guy took a selfie from the International Space Station, showing the Earth behind him, and he said, "Yeah, I'm sure the naysayers will say this is fake too." And he's got his phone and he took a selfie. So it's there is a movement underway. I really mean this, to retard knowledge. Look at Common Core. Look at people graduating from high school. No child left behind. I thought that what that meant was every one of them is going to be educated, but it doesn't. It means every one of them is going to be graduated, whether they've learned anything or not.
Well,
I've got my high school diploma.
Well, it's time. We are in such a mess now. It's time for me to bring in our counselor, Joy, and this is a little something she prepared ahead of time.
Hi, John. This is Joy, and I just wanted to say that it seems that when our country is at its greatest peril, that its true patriots will rise and take a stand. There are many notable names in the alternative media that have stepped up and are on the front line, and there's none more prominent than you. So with our country and our very way of life being threatened, it is going to take courage, commitment, and dedication on all our parts to take a stand, because silence is consent. So it is an honor that you've agreed to add your distinguished voice to our voices from afar here on TFR this evening.
And I give you Joy, our counselor.
Wow.
Hi, John.
Hi, Joy.
It's nice to have your distinguished voice here to sing in the choir, Voices from Afar.
Well, thank you very much. You're very kind.
I had another question for you, kind of on an economic theme, but you guys started talking about Antarctica, and I ran across something that I haven't heard anyone else talking about, but it seems to be a big flack about. Has anyone heard of the Ark of Gabriel?
We have not had any contact from anybody about that particular subject. No.
Okay, I'm going to read a little bit about here what this is, and it calls wild rumors that a fabled device or weapon called the Ark of Gabriel has been found under the Masjid al-Haram Mosque, the holiest site in Islam, are sweeping across the darker corners of the internet. Legend tells us that Archangel Gabriel, who told the Virgin Mary she would give birth to Jesus, and dictated the Quran to the Prophet Muhammad, also entrusted an ark or a box of immense power to the founder of the of Muslim faith. Muhammad was told to bury the ark in a shrine at a place of worship, for it to be brought out at the end of the world as it approaches. Paranoid survivalists believe Saudi Arabia has uncovered the ark during a major construction project at the Grand Mosque and handed it to the Russians. And they claim Russian military is taking the ark to the Antarctic, possibly to a former Nazi UFO base. So this thing is supposed to have the power. The people that dug it up, they were killed. There was about 1,400 people killed because of this. It's supposed to have some kind of like an atomic blast to it that killed people. And they kind of covered it up and saying, well, these people were stampeded around the black cube that they go around when they do their yearly pilgrimage to Mecca. So I thought it was kind of interesting that everything's going to the Antarctic.
Yeah, well, it certainly has all the components for a good story.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm inclined to be reserved until. So let's see. We got the Saudis, we got the Russians, we got the Nazis, we got Gabriel, we got Muhammad, and we've got an ark. At this moment, I'm inclined to be.
Not a conspiracy theorist, right? Not a conspiracy theorist.
No, it sounds really, really excellent, but
well, it is intriguing.
I mean, I don't know. I know the Nazis were interested in all sorts of things like that, and I'm not going to say it's. I'm not going to say it's not. It's not possible, and I'm not going to just declare that it's not true. I'm just going to say, wow, there sure are a lot of interesting components there. Russians and Saudis and Muslims and Nazis. Wow.
It's got all the buzzwords, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
And Joy, I wanted you to share a little bit about yourself with John before you got into questions. Because Joy, I dragged Joy into being a crew member. We shanghaied her. She came skicking, right? Kicking and screaming. She did a lot of skicking too, but she came in kicking and screaming, and she is in the trenches. She is surrounded by snowflakes and family members.
Boy.
She can't even tell her family members that she voted for Trump. She voted for what's her name? But anyway, Joy, say hello to John.
Hi, John.
Wow.
Yeah, my family just about disowned me, and I got all kinds of lectures because I voted for Trump. And my neighborhood around here, they wore black whenever Trump was elected. And of course, they were in with wearing the pink hats and a big march downtown. And they're so radical. And they were just all Hillary. It was all Hillary. They didn't want to hear one thing about her. So I have to be dancing really careful around the people I live around. It's kind of hard.
Yeah, and then we went and said it all over the air here now. So now you're really in trouble. It's too bad that people on the left side of things cling to that ideology so tightly. But just a few days ago, we had someone on who was a complete left-wing person and was complaining about the travel ban. Because it's a Muslim ban. And as the conversation goes on, it took about 15 or maybe 20 seconds for this to be revealed. She talked about how these countries that are majority Muslim, that it's not just a travel restriction, it's a Muslim ban. And she says, but Saudi Arabia, they can come and go as they please. And this other one here, she named some other one, they can come and go as they please. And I said, well, do you not understand that you just completely undid your own argument? So it's even more racist and xenophobic than we thought, because not only is it a Muslim ban, but only certain Muslims are going to be banned. Oh, that is bad. That really is bad. She absolutely did not get it. It's like you just said it was a Muslim ban, and then the next thing out of your mouth is that Saudi Arabia, which practices the most hardcore of the Muslim sects tenets, that would be Wahhabi. I mean, they've set the record for beheadings and amputations now for, 4 or 5 years running. So what are you talking about? But that's the problem with the left, so we have to love them. We do. We have to love them. That's what Christ said to do. He didn't say anything about liking them.
Yeah, there you go.
So that's it. We don't just throw them away unless they want to supplant our beliefs with theirs. I think the biggest problem, the biggest source of their frustration is that effectively they worship themselves. As Brandy told me one time, just during one of our many conversations about this stuff, the human being is designed to worship, and it will worship something. So behold, the religion of the left, and their zealots. And it's just the way it is. They will not be shifted. They will not be cajoled. They will not be convinced. They won't even tolerate being shown evidence because they just know somehow it's wrong. I'm pretty rough on those people. There's some people pretty close to me, but I can't spend much time with them because inevitably it will lead to some political discourse. And at some point I'm going to say, well, this is just idiotic. I can't go on with it. Well, are you saying I'm an idiot? Well, effectively, yes. Now, because you're a human being and you can learn, you can adapt, and you can grow, then I'm not going to say you're in a permanent state of idiocy, but it is possible. You may make the choice to remain in it. So that's just how it is. I mean, whoever thought that a candidate would go before their supporters and say, I'm going to raise taxes. Hooray! I want the borders to be open. Hooray! I'm going to bring in more people of a Mohammedan culture and stuff as many of them as I can into predominantly Christian areas. Hooray! I mean, do they not understand that when their usefulness is spent, they're going to be discarded as well? No, they don't. Joseph Stalin wasn't referring to his own people as useful idiots. He was referring to Americans who were extolling the virtues of communism and the works of Karl Marx and Lenin. He called them useful idiots. And that's what they are. But people think that he was talking about his own people because he was just so mean. No, he was talking about us. And Joe Stalin was a pretty rough cat. And you see the way these people act. I've never seen, frankly, you better stop me here pretty quick, because I've never seen such a disgusting excuse for supposedly evolved human beings in my life. If they're not throwing their toys out of their playpens and fleeing to safe spaces because their feelings are hurt, they're out in the street with a mask on like a real coward and destroying other people's property. And then somebody tells the cops to stand down and let them do that. Just like that idiot mayor in, was it Baltimore, that said, well, for people who wanted to destroy, we kind of made a space for them to tear stuff up and destroy if they wanted to. I mean, why coddle these people? My feeling is that you look at a country like South Africa and what it was and what it is now, and then you see the picture of Soros standing there next to F.W. de Klerk. I call him the willing dupe, and he was. And not a very nice man at all. He divorced his wife, married his best friend's wife or his brother's wife or something. And his original wife wound up getting murdered. Who knows why that happened? Luck of the draw, maybe. But it's time for us to recognize that I think the women are waiting for us to be men again. I think we should remember we are the men of the West. Yep. And we have built civilizations. It's like, whoa, what, are you some sort of a racist or something? No, not really. I mean, really, my race is actually quite pathetic. All we did was go to the moon, split the atom, build ships that sail on the surface as well as under the surface of the ocean, build civilizations, and develop all the tech that's widely distributed. The Chinese are falling all over themselves to steal our stuff and then sell it back to us cheaper. So actually, the white race is completely pathetic. But it should be noted, though, that the ones that they would have take over, black people go to Africa because it's the motherland. And invariably, they hook up with a Caucasian tour guide. Treat them poorly, real poorly. And by the time they've been there a few days, they can't wait to get back on the plane and get back home. Oh, it's the motherland. This is just really it. It's like, yeah, well, I'll tell you what. You put your gangbanging Alpha Sierra out there in the bush for a little while. Well, let's see if you make it 10 minutes, because guess what's going to happen? Another black guy is going to come over and kill you. It's just the way it is. So I go back to where I originally started, which is, why are the women being put in a position to have the strength? Why are these men turning into disgusting little babies? I would say something else, but I can't on your program. But it has to do with breastfeeding, and the second word is babies. Why are they turning into these hopeless little weenies? Where is the testicular as well as the intestinal fortitude? Why are the women being put in the position of going out and making the living, having the children, and being the most, frankly, in many cases, the most articulate? You know what I'm saying? Why? When are we going to be men again?
I'm glad you brought that subject up, because when I have a chance to interview you, you've covered so many subjects I have on my mind. And we're going to bring in our utility man. John has a toast just for you, and I will play that. Scottish John, a chance to woo our friend with a toast. So here we go, John.
I used to listen to you on Coast to Coast. They gave you the boot, now Coast is Toast. Now I'm an expert on Bigfoot and ghosts, using knowledge I can't even boast. Now you're the man in the caravan, heading to the midnight hour, sharing your kind of knowledge like a teacher in college, the kind we want to devour. So I just want to offer this wee bit of rap. It's pure Scottish, it can't be crap. You keep your arse and you can keep your HG. I'm a man of discernment, give me some John B.
Wow.
Don't you love it?
That was amazing. Oh, man.
That's our Scottish John, and he. Anyway, Scottish John, say hello to John B.
How you doing, John?
Hey, I'm doing all right. How are you, sir?
Great, mate. What a pleasure to talk to you.
It's mutual, I'm sure. Wow.
Well,
that was extraordinary.
Let me kick off with this one. I think it was about 3 weeks ago on Saturday night. I just got knocked out of a poker tournament, I think. And I just flipped back over to my Facebook page, and there was your thing, Arc to Midnight. So I click on that. And who are you talking to? But one of my dearest friends in the world, Dr. Laura Presley.
Oh, yeah, she's such a great gal.
That was quite a moment. I'm usually angry when I lose at poker, but that night it was, what do they call it, synchronicity or serendipity or something like that?
Maybe a little of both, yeah.
There you go, yeah. But thanks to you, I've now become an expert on Bigfoot and ghosts and haunted houses, because since your ignominious exit from Coast to Coast, that seemed to be all they ever talked about. And oh my God. But it has kind of worked out for me in one way, because there's a few bars in my neighborhood that have hired me to come in about 15 to 20 minutes before last orders and start talking about Bigfoot and haunted houses and ghosts, and they no longer have any problem clearing out the bar at closing time. So.
Oh, John.
But
John.
What a sad world, eh? As I said to these guys, the other week there, I made up this daft wee joke. I said, if you cross me with Bigfoot, would you call me Sasquatch, John?
Absolutely.
There you go.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't want to dwell on the Coast to Coast thing, except to say I no longer listen to it, because since your departure, there's been incidents, and I've just finally said, nah, screw it. I can't listen to this crap anymore. So we are no longer companions in, I was going to say, in my bed. But that doesn't sound right, does it?
Oh, that's a wrong show.
I know, yeah. I have to listen to repeats of Alex Jones when I go to bed now to put me to sleep.
Oh my God!
You listen to Alex to go to sleep? Wow, that's strong stuff.
I'll have the volume down low, you know.
Oh yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Well, one of the best things that ever happened to me was being hired by Coast, and the second best thing that happened was being let go by Coast.
There you go.
So it was.
So I say about the Marine Corps.
Yeah. The Marine Corps. It was a little bit like the Marine Corps, but without the guns. You don't want to mention those, you know.
Yeah, well, it's the best thing I did, best thing I got out of. Go ahead, John.
I was going to ask your opinion. Obviously, you know what happened in Westminster last week. So
yeah.
And I follow the news every day from back home, and as soon as I heard about that given the kind of business we're in, right away, your spidey sense goes off and you think, okay, what the hell's going on here? Now, I used to live about 5 minutes away from Westminster there. So I know that area very well, and I've passed by that corner of Westminster Bridge at Parliament there, God, thousands of times. And when I got to hear some of the details of this thing, where this guy in a car had mounted the pavement, or the sidewalk, as you guys call it, sort of in the middle of the bridge, I thought, well, that's a really strange thing to do. And he made his way into that little parking area in through the gates. I don't know how the hell he did that. Well, I found out part of the reason for this is like the Pentagon on 9/11. Now, I'm sure you know that London is renowned for having more security cameras, CCTV cameras, than any other city in the world. But this guy managed to get his car that close to the gates, and actually to get past, there's 2 policemen usually on duty there. Just to clear something up that some people may be a bit confused about, they don't close those gates. They're permanently left open because they're old-fashioned gates. They're on a hinge. They're not these electronic closing gates. But the traffic in and out of there, because it's so close to Downing Street, is pretty constant throughout the day. So they don't want to be bothered with closing them. But it stinks. It absolutely stinks that guy actually got in there and sadly, very sadly, ended up being able to kill a policeman. I mean, the CC camera's not working. Come on. Who are you trying to kid? What do you think of that?
Well, yeah, that combined with MI5 supposedly knew him, and he was allowed to remain there. It's look, it's just stupid, John. I mean, the fact of the matter is if I were going to get real wild with it and decide, okay, this really is a very, very serious psyop. Well, what would the components be? Well, first of all, we'll impose these people on the indigenous population, and then we'll track them. But if they do something, no big deal. So we'll hit the citizenry with 2 levels of fear. One is just walking around among them, knowing their propensity for violence, and then the second level of fear is we'll let them actually commit it, even though we have them on our radar screens. And when people say, look, I mean, I go back to the women, the woman out there doing the loudest and most articulate, calling for some sort of sanity. And that would be that little gal, Katie Hopkins. I want to say she wrote an article in, I think it was Daily Mail, about how we can't keep doing this at all.
Yeah.
And you can't. I mean, but again, this some woman, I saw her today. She's got an African last name, and she's clearly an African individual, and she just thinks it's wrong. It's wrong for murderers and rapists to be deported from Sweden because, well, the Swedes, if they commit a murder or a rape, they're not deported. It's like, well, but they live there. It's like, well, we need to have a uniform policy. I mean, this is the kind of idiocy. I mean, it would have been fine with me if this information had never reached my eyes, let alone brain. But because it is out there, because they give a person like this any place on any tabloid or any major news outlet anywhere, the fact that we even acknowledge their ridiculous doctrine, there's on the sideband, what we're being informed is that it's all right and that we must tolerate all opinions, no matter how ludicrous they may be. And what effect does this have? Well, it demoralizes the citizenry, because then they begin to think, really, our elected officials, our so-called leaders, are okay with this. Who is it that they're afraid of offending? That little guy, Rodrigo Duterte, over in the Philippines, I think he's got it down. He's a nasty little thing, but you always know where you stand with him. And I don't understand why these politicians, we're going to have an election, and you're going to elect somebody, and then they're going to permit this. They won't stand up for their citizens. They won't eject the criminals. They won't pop a chip in their backsides and say, don't come over here again because we're going to wand you. And if you are picked up like that, you're going to wind up in some place like Ghana, okay? I don't get it.
Speaking of the attack in England there, and the Illuminati numbers, 322 and 9/11, this attack supposedly happened on 322, which is documented, and it happened at 9/11. Now, if that isn't a code that they did what they wanted to do when they did it, that's another whole story. But
they're freaks. Everybody knows it. Doesn't surprise me in the least.
Yeah. John, a few things I wanted to bring up is when did you realize that you were a force to contend with? I want to know when you knew that you had reached a level that I could only hope to attain. And I have one other question with that. Have you ever met or seen one person that stuck in your mind forever? I mean, you don't even have to meet this person, just be in the same room with this person. Have you ever run across anybody that made an impression on you for the rest of your life?
Yeah, that would have to be Patrick McGoohan, the actor, actually, because that was really, you were really seeing Pat when he did his Prisoner series, particularly. That was Pat, having actually spoken with his daughter, Catherine, and I asked her, was he like this all the time? And she said, yeah, he was. So that's really him that we're seeing, pretty much, yeah. He tried to warn us in that Prisoner series that
just where we are today, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely everything. Your privacy's gone, continual surveillance, mind control. You must conform. You're not, for you to have a name, that's vanity. You need a number. That's all you need is a number.
And for my first question, what was the moment you realized that you were a captain of a starship and you had your own force behind you? Was there a moment?
I'm not going to say that there really was, but I can tell you that when I left Coast, I'd already fired up Caravan, and when Coast let me go, then when all these people began to join the Caravan, it was like, wow, I think there was somebody listening out there, and apparently some of them found value in it. And here they came. I mean, and it was really quite gratifying because I never could get the straight answer on what the listenership was, but when I did finally get it, it was actually quite high. So yeah, that I'm sure that was it. It was probably that little nether area between leaving Coast on 20-something, whatever, January and February 3rd when we put on our first program. I wanted to delay the launch about 30 days and then change my mind and just said, no, let's just do it. Let's just go for it. Let's not even let it cool off. Let's just go.
Yep. And I'm going to throw it back to Scottish John. He has something to say, but first I wanted to say, I realized that I had arrived when I spoke to the Moriartys, and it was the most important show I ever did. And then to speak to Doug Weed and inform a Washington insider of exactly what alternative radio knew. And now that you've agreed to do Voices from Afar, I am well assured that I am on my way to big things when it comes to I'm not talking monetary and I'm not talking fame and fortune. I'm simply talking about getting a message out that is so important, and with my crew that is just so enjoyable. So I'm going to throw it back to John.
Yeah, I just wanted to answer a question to, I think it was Darryl in the chat room. He just mentioned the police that stand outside Downing Street are armed. Well, actually, those two cops that usually man the gates at Westminster, they used to be armed, but for some reason, some of the members of Parliament decided that they wanted them disarmed. Don't know why. I know. Now, Bill, you just reminded me of something as well. I made a note of the date of that incident, 3/22. Now, you said it happened at 9:10 in the morning or 9:11 in the morning.
I heard 9/11.
Well, I saw a photograph online there, and Big Ben was reading 322. And also, coincidentally, Fox News ran an article about it, which lasted 3 minutes, 22 seconds, if you can believe that.
So
Oh
typical.
my God.
Just weird.
That's
Weird.
just weird, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Now, John, we're just another thing. I just want to get this off my chest because it's just really weird. That
Right.
Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, they had a sort of an impromptu respect service kind of thing up at Trafalgar Square that night, and he was one of the speakers, and apparently he stood there with his hands in his pockets addressing the crowd, and a lot of people were really pissed off about that, understandably so. I mean, I thought that was very disrespectful.
yeah, I would agree with you. Did you just drop off?
No, I'm sorry, I was just
No,
waiting.
you're still there.
Yeah.
No. Well, who elected him anyway?
Oh, I've no idea. I have
Right.
no idea. I've lived here 18 years, and I really wasn't following the political scene back home because after the Thatcher years, I needed a break, man. I just needed to save what was left of my brain and my sanity. And it was only by virtue of the Scottish independence referendum happening in 2014 that I started following politics back home. And God, now you've set me off on another track here. I'm pretty convinced, actually, having seen their current makeup, I think the Labour Party in Britain has been infiltrated by the Tories because they're not a party anymore. They're a joke. They're an absolute joke. And I think what's going to happen as a result of that is that Britain is going to be stuck with a god-awful Tory government for the foreseeable future, and it ain't going to be pretty.
Yeah, well, the same thing happened in the States. The Democrats, and certainly their ideology, they used to be the champions of the working man. I mean, the idea was that the Democrats would make sure that everybody had a job, and the Republicans made sure that nobody was left out. That's one of our guests on Caravan said, and I thought that was really pretty well put. They would take care of business, and they'd ride herd over the, as we say in Texas, they would ride herd over the corporations and make sure that through corporatocracy, people weren't left out. And the Democrats would make sure that people were taken care of and they'd have a pension and things would be fair and there wouldn't be any sweatshops and so forth. But now it's all about the money. I mean, when Dr. David Janda came on, he's all about prevention and so forth. And nobody was interested, even in the halls of Washington. They had no interest in hearing his protocol for prevention because there's no money in it. They don't want to drop the restrictions on competing across state lines in the United States for insurance coverage, because if they do that, then prices will go down and they'll make less money and so forth. So it's the same thing. I mean, that's what they do. If you're up against a political ideology, how do you crack it if it won't budge? Well, you just infiltrate it with enough of your own people until you dilute its strength, and then eventually you have what we have in this country, and apparently in what you have in the UK as well, which is, you have two parties, but actually they're identical.
Yep, you nailed it, brother. I used to listen to a late night radio talk show in London called LBC, and about 2 a.m. every morning, the host would have a trivia phone-in quiz. So I'm lying in bed listening one night, and this lady calls in. She's got a couple of questions right. And the next question comes up. Who was shot in Dallas on November 22nd, 1963? What do you think she said? She said J.R. Ewing.
J.R. Ewing, there you go. Wow. That doesn't surprise me in the least. Not at all.
And John, speaking of riding over the herd, I have no idea how many people you have in your staff producing your show. I had a friend tell me that I should go independent like you did, and I said, no way. I put this show together myself, the editing, the clips, etc., and I could not do it without my crew. And I was just wondering, how many people do you have on staff? And I don't think I'm going to need any lawyers. You did. I want you to know that I contributed to your lawyers. I became a subscriber. And I was just wondering, what kind of staff does it take to run your show?
Well, thank you very much for being a member. I mean, I really mean it, because we're completely member supported. Well, I have a technical producer in there that does the actual recording. Then another person edits and so forth. But then outside of that, you know, we have office staff, and I mean, because we ship a lot of product and answer a lot of phone calls. I mean, I don't know. There's probably at the end of the day, there are probably 15 people involved. The IT, the combination of the IT people and the problem solvers who look after the caravanners if they have any issues, whether they lost their password and tried to reset it and couldn't, or just whatever it is. But yeah, between the IT people that just keep it running, and the office staff and the production staff, there's about 15 of us.
Yeah, in our case, Chris Gio set this whole thing up. He's a code writer and a musician. And as I said, I don't want to go independent because he does such a fine job with this station. And we do have a family here at Truth Frequency Radio. We have 2 minutes till break time when I'm going to bring in the Moriartys, and we'll chat during the break. So, John, take us out for 2 minutes.
Okay, well, here's the thing. Well, a lot of people that are listening to your program right now, maybe you gave them the heads up that I was going to be on there. They're probably already wise to it, but for new people out there, as I say, you know, there are some out there that will say, I'm completely free from corporate influence. And it's like, no, you're not. You are a corporation. You are corporate influence. I'm totally divorced from the mainstream media. No, you are mainstream media. And as a matter of fact, you supported Ted Cruz in the election. So the thing is that this audience that makes up the membership of Caravan to Midnight is the most giving, caring audience that a person could ever hope to have, ever. Much more than I ever expected, much more than I ever expected, and just exactly what I wanted. And so if you join, you will find over 700 programs already in archive, and they're good ones. They really are. A couple of people just work continuously on keeping up with what is interesting and what will be interesting in the future. I'm engaged in that myself, but this is not happening right now, but it may very well happen in the near future. So let's talk to them and let's get ahead of this thing a little bit. And if you join us, you don't have to spring for $60 for the whole year. You can get a half a year, or you can get a quarter, 3 months at a time. But I would urge everyone to just go to our YouTube channel and check out those daily news segments. That's the first part of the program. And the thing is a lot of people are having trouble with money now. And I suspect it's going to get worse because I'm seeing some symptoms here that I'll go into with you later. But I'm seeing a few symptoms. When you see corporations that are separate from each other, and yet they're in the same field, but they all begin having trouble at about the same time as things start, the behavior is the same between all of them. The last time that this happened was in 2008, and then 2009, and then there was the collapse, and then 2009 came. So we put that stuff up on YouTube because it's free, and people who they don't have $5 a month, they don't. So I'm not going to leave them out just because they don't have the dough.
And we are back with Mr. John B. Wells, perhaps the height of my career so far, other than having a show with Jimmy and Joanne Moriarty, perhaps my most important show, and I brought them into studio. They are friends with John B. Wells as well. And so, Jimmy and Joanne, happy to be here.
Great.
Great
John
to be
B.,
with
great
you.
to hear you. You know, you have a most distinguished voice in radio, and folks have heard you that don't even know who you are. So proud to be with you, Ken.
Good to be with you, too. Thanks for the compliment.
And having met you in person, John B., I like to say you're
Absolutely stand-up guy.
You're a stand-up guy. Your energy is great. You're 100% person.
We really appreciate it. And I've got to tell you something.
You're getting a little blush out of me now, so knock it off.
You got a great audience. You know, Joanne and I are out on the end of a little limb, and we've had so many wonderful emails and letters of support and stuff. You've got a great audience, and And it's one of the most outstanding responses we've had. And in that vein, also, I want to tell you that the people of Libya, thank you so much for having Sheikh Tantouche on there. He's the leader of the second largest tribe in Libya. He's also their most prominent imam, and they tried to assassinate him this week. And luckily, they only gave him a muscle wound in his leg.
What happened was he's working with the Worshipana tribe. That's his tribe. And he's bringing people together inside the tribe because they've all been separated. There's outsiders, he calls them, but they're mercenaries. And they're trying to divide all the tribes. They don't want the tribes to come together because that means that there's too much strength in that for Libya. And so he was working with that, and he got shot by one of the people that were fighting about the tribes. And he said, you have to understand that if we could get rid of these outsiders in our country, we would soon be finished with this, and everything would be back together again. So I want people to understand that it's the John McCains and the Hillary Clintons and the Obamas that sent those people in there and continue to pay for those people in there that's destroying that country.
Yep. Well, they're doing the same thing here. They just haven't got the same traction that they've
That's right.
over there.
That's right. Plus, we're armed here. We are not armed in Libya.
They can look at the blueprint of Libya and see what's going on here. Just it's point and detail exactly the same. But for you to have Sheikh Tantouche on, that was a wonderful thing for you to do, and that really helped the Libyan people. Those guys need some support. They need to know that the world hadn't forgotten them.
What they need is a voice. They haven't had a voice since 2010. All those speaking in the media are not voices of the Libyans. They're voices of the New World puppets. Yeah,
the problem is, I just wish there was some way to. When you're able to speak with somebody like Khalid Tantouche, I just wish that there could be more exposure. I wish that everybody was talking to him. I wish a bunch of outlets were talking to him and others as well. But it's slow. But I just have to look at it as the Lord's time, and it's going where it needs to go. I mean, I am. If I were a little bit more paranoid. People have heard your interview that I'm pretty sure you have no idea these people are listening. And frequently people come on the program and I'm thinking, wow, I really want to talk to this person. And they'll say, I've been with you since the program started. It's great to be with you. It's like, what? I don't say what, but that's what I'm thinking. So maybe it's got more reach and more traction than we know.
I think it does.
Maybe it does. Maybe it's not just a. In the words of Detective Harry Callahan, a famous figure in American history, I don't want it to be that we're putting our finger in the hole in the dike, and the whole dike is collapsing around that finger.
Yeah, that's an image.
But we're hearing some things that indicate that there are some quality ears hearing what's going on. There've been a lot of ears listening, but they've been blockaders rather than people who are really trying to do something good. And so we're hearing that, and that's encouraging to us. Our story is dramatic and it's unbelievable, but the real story is how this country destroyed Libya and Syria, etc., Yemen and Ukraine, and the people never knew about it. And so it goes way past us. The story really doesn't have anything to do with us anymore. All we are is the storytellers at this juncture.
We had a long discussion today with somebody about the military-industrial complex, and they told us that, well, it's still running most everything in this country. That's one of the big problems, and that stopping John McCain and all these Pentagon people who are not patriots, who are not for any peace or any kind of stopping wars. It's a difficult event. You have to break through some of these lines that they've got shut off. They've got the FBI completely controlled. He said Comey's a member of that complex.
John B. says, since this is kind of an informal get together, which is one of the things we like about Bill's show, because you're not bearing any formality at all, But do you receive pressure from outside, or are you able to defray all that?
No, we don't.
Good.
Because we've made it clear that if we do, then there's going to be some information released that is going to be very embarrassing to some people. And that this information has been distributed to well over 50 people now. well over 50 people now, and these people do not know each other, and I do not know them personally. It was not easy to set this up on the one hand, but on the other hand, once I figured out how to do it, it became very, very easy. So the thing is I don't mess with them too much, and they don't mess with me. And as long as we have this understanding that, well, and the other part is that there are a lot of good people in CIA. There are a lot of good people in FBI. The ones who are running them, the ones that are running the outfit, the bosses, those are the ones that are the problem. I mean, take Director Comey, for example. I've gone back and forth on him. A lot of people, a lot of FBI guys say that he's a good guy, you know. Well, he's getting some pressure from somewhere. The question is where. And he was a big shot at Lockheed Martin for a while. What does that tell us? I mean, what is this supposed to tell us?
Yeah.
The same thing that, look, folks, here's a problem. I'm speaking to the listeners out there. Statistically speaking, and we know what Mark Twain said about statistics, there are lies, damned lies, and statistics. So you can come up with statistics to support just about anything. They may or may not be accurate. But these seem to be pretty accurate. And the statistic that I refer to is this one. About 10% of the people out there, if you really want to stretch a point, really stretch it, then go to 15%. But let's say between 10 and 15% of everybody out there is actually capable of independent thinking. If you are capable of independent thinking, you must understand the following. You are a leader, period. You are not a private. You are a captain. You are a lieutenant. You are an officer. You can lead people, but you have to know that you have already been given your rank, and the war is well underway. So come presently upon your hour and lead. People want, earlier in the program, I said people want to worship. They're designed to worship, and they will worship something. Whether it's good or bad, they will.
And
well,
that was the one subject you brought up. I was talking to John earlier, Scottish John earlier. When you have people bowing to the Pope, bowing to Obama, bowing to the Queen, John B., can I ask you, what the hell are we doing here when so many of them are bowing to people that are ruling and tyrannizing them? So I've come up to the conclusion we were sent down here, as you know, to gather our troops to take them to our starships in the hereafter. But John, what the hell are we doing here with all of these bowers?
Well, they're followers, and those people that they're bowing to were put in a position to be bowed to be given the kissing of backside ceremony. But once they're revealed, a lot of those people that were doing the bowing, they're going to be upset, if for no other reason than it's like, well, you're calling me an idiot because I bowed to that person. It's like, no, you're not an idiot. You were fooled. Well, that's just as bad. You're calling me a fool now. That's where they'll take it, because independent thinkers do not operate on emotion. Independent thinkers operate on facts. I mean, for example, how many people know that Progressive Insurance is actually, I think he stepped down from his position with with one of the liberal organizations, whether it's the Democrat Party or the ACLU or one of them. But now, how many people know that Progressive Insurance was named Progressive because it's the ideology, it's the political ideology behind the name? And that's really true. Another one is Starbucks. Let's see, another one is AARP. Most of the people voted that are members of AARP. They weren't for Obamacare, but AARP threw their support behind Obamacare and Obama. You have to look and see who you're spending money with. When the homosexuals decided they're just going to show, that Chick-fil-A outfit, just what a bunch of bastards they are, and they're just going to run them out. They made the guy's whole year in a week because people stood up. That's the thing. Normal people do not want a brawl. Normal people do not need a safe space. Their home is their safe space. Their family is their safe space. Their beloved, their children, whatever, their significant other, that's their safe space. These other people need an actual designated safe space so that like-minded idiots can go there and they can all get together and comfort each other. I'll tell you what Brendy said. When these idiot Swedes put on their pussy hats. That's what they call them. And it's true, because that expression actually has nothing to do with genitalia. It is actually short for the word pusillanimous, meaning small-minded, petty, or cowardly. And I tell people, you don't have to believe me, just look it up. So here are these morons sitting there with their pussy hats on. And, Brendy said, that hat suits you perfectly, because that's what you are, pussies. Now, bleep off and go and be men. And that's what they should do. But they don't. Instead, it's like, we're gonna stand in solidarity. Stand in solidarity with what? Here, let me tell you what you're standing in solidarity with. Flash, headline. Wow, female athletes are being crushed by other female athletes who used to be men. What? Nobody saw that coming. Nobody saw that one coming at all. That guys that convert to being, hey, I feel like I'll put on my dress today and a bra and some panties. These people are like participating in sports. Men are stronger than women, not in each and every case. You're going to want you're going to run into a Josie every once in a while, like in Moon for the Misbegotten and Eugene O'Neill play. She carried a club, right? She was a big old girl, and she'd kill you. But they're not all like that. They're not all Amazons that are warlike and carrying weapons. But I digress. Men are stronger. They're built stronger. They're built bigger than women.
And that brings me back to what you sparked in me. As for completing your mission here, and men are just, when are women going to stand up for women? Because we got this death cult coming in, changing their genitalia, putting them, they're actually, I don't know what you call them. They're not even beings. I mean, they're hidden under everything. So your mission as a man to wake other men up. I cannot believe that men do not stand up for their women in Europe who are being raped. It's just, are they afraid of causing a war in their own town to protect their women?
No, they're not. No, they're not, brother. They're not. They're afraid of getting in trouble because they're sniveling little weenies. They're not prepared to say, you know what, screw you. A woman that I love was raped, and I'm going to raise hell until I get some attention here. Well, we'll put you in jail. Well, then put me in jail. But then the other men need to show up and go, you need to let him out of jail, because this is what's going to happen if you don't. None of you SOBs are ever going to hold office again. We will throw you out. We will cut off your money. We will create incidents of civil disobedience that you just won't believe. What this man did in being outraged over the rape of his woman, his daughter, his sister, his wife, his mother, was entirely correct. He is within his rights to raise hell about this. And you want to put him in jail? Well, let me tell you what, you're going to, by the time we're finished with you, you're going to flee to a jail. So that will become your safe space. But won't anybody do it until push comes to shove?
John,
how many people? Go ahead.
Did you see that guy in Texas that beat that man to death that raped his 13-year-old or 5-year-old daughter? Raped his 5, and they said no charges were. They dropped the charges against him.
That is entirely correct.
Texas. God bless Texas. The law is still on the books. It's the deserve to be shot law or killed. And if 12 of your peers determine that the guy that you killed need to be killed, then you're scot-free.
Well, it's what John Mellencamp wrote in that song, Crumbling Down. Some people are no damn good. What are you going to do? Let them out so they can do it again?
Exactly. But, John, I've got to tell you, taking the hard road or taking the right road isn't easy. We're proof positive of that. They make it so easy to do the wrong things and so hard to do the right things. And so most people will opt for the easy road. And you threaten somebody with going to jail, gosh, that's their biggest fear because they watched it. They know what's happened in jail. But it's hard. I can promise you it's a tough road to take. But we all need to do it. We all need to do it.
Look what they did to Jesus. What did he do to anybody?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing.
Well, he threw out the money traders. That's the same guys causing the trouble today.
Well, that's right. And I think everybody needs to understand, cut these people's money off.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just quit buying it and it will go away. If you want something to go away, stop buying it. Now NBC's going to, we're thinking about, swinging to the right a little bit. Well, they're not doing that because they believe that it's the right thing to do. They're doing it so they can save their business. Yeah. Don't let them save their business. Cut them off. Don't ever watch them again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like you said, the Starbucks CEO is stepping down. He's
Good.
cost 5 straight, what do they call them, terms, or 5 straight quarters of downturn in the stock market because of his lunacy.
Well, he's a moron. He
Yeah,
decides
he
he's
is.
going to hire 15,000 Muslims.
Yeah.
Target is
Right.
all out of business.
Yeah. Well, remember, Progressive Insurance, AARP, and Starbucks. Those are the big ones. It's like you've had enough of our money.
Yeah.
That's it. And
That's
you
right.
walk in there, and it's like a cult anyway most of the time. So I don't know. I'll make my coffee at home. I don't have to go to Starbucks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Starbucks
that's right.
has nasty coffee anyway.
Always. Their little custom drinks are okay, but get an Americano if you're going to actually have coffee. That way it's heading and sitting there for an hour.
Yeah, you'd have to drive 100 miles to get to one anyway.
Yeah.
You
some of this stuff is going to sound draconian to people. It's like, well, that's just mean. It's like, listen, sometimes meanness is being ugly to people without reason. But once you say, you know what, this outfit XYZ over there, they're responsible for the maiming and killing of a few people and, other people being fired and so forth. Not only are we going to run you out of business, but don't say you're sorry and then come back with a different sign, because we're going to find out who you are. You're not going to be in business anymore. This is your punishment. You can go work for somebody else, but you're not going to have anybody working for you, because the moment we discover that you have resurfaced under a different name, we're going to cut your money off to that company too. You're out of business permanently because of what you did to people. If you've had a change of heart, that's good. The Lord will be impressed. We are not.
That's right.
And that's it. Speaking of the Lord, the liberals and the snowflakes, they try and play off Jesus as a pussy. Jesus was tough. Oh, you can't do that. What would Jesus do? Well, Jesus flipped. He flipped the money changers' tables. He brought out his whip, and he cast them out of the temple, which is exactly the example for us, because nothing has changed since Jesus said, out. So we have to, exactly.
Does anybody remember the one about, I didn't come here with any good news. I came here with a sword.
Yes.
Amen.
So all of you who have a cloak, go sell it and get yourself a sword. And I think it was Peter said, Lord, I have 2. And he goes, okay, that's enough. So
yeah. I don't understand how it is that on the other side they can do mean things, do horrible things, say horrible things, treat people badly, and act like that's allowed. That's fine because we said it, but you can't do that.
They force-fed us political correctness that's really not political correctness. It's little balls of shit, and they taste bad.
Yeah. Well, there was a thing, I can't remember which university it was. It was from campusreform.org. Check into that one regularly, because you'll see so much stupid stuff going on there you won't believe it. But the brutality of masculinity, because people think to be meek means to be sniveling little weenie. That's not what it means. It means power, however much you have of it. Maybe you have great power under control. So to me, the ultimate masculinity is a very powerful man treating his woman with tenderness and care and attention and deference, and still being able to say, I don't think this is a good way to go, and just be cool. What's happened to the women now is that for so long this topless stripper prostitute mentality and the porn, all these idiots running around, they just can't, they can't actually, most of them cannot actually please their partner, but they compensate for this by just going from one partner to the next to the next to the next to the next, so that nobody's ever really paying attention to it, and they don't really have the opportunity to get into a relationship of any depth. But the thing is, the strip bar and prostitute mentality, which really started pretty much with Madonna and her trashy antics, along with her trashy songs. And you see now she's pretty burnt out. I don't want to see her in one of those costumes. Never did, but especially not now. Women thought, well, we have to be like this to be appealing. Women want to be appealing. That's chauvinistic. I don't care. It's true. You know, go out into public, leave your safe space and go look around. How do the men act? How do the women act? Well, now you're given a choice of men, either a brute or a hand-holding little fairy. So there's, you know, and with the women, you have either a prude who acts like a prude, is probably the wildest thing in the whole neighborhood, but she conducts herself like a prude. She dresses prudishly and so forth. And then you got the other ones that look like they're ready to go hooking. So I think probably once a nation loses its moral compass, the rest is soon to follow. Because as it stands now, virtually everything is allowed. Before long, we'll adopt the attitude of that black woman in Sweden who says, "Well, Swedes aren't deported when they commit murder or rape, so why should immigrants?"
Yeah.
I mean, that's some real genius ideology there. So we have to stand up and say no. I have declared 2017 the year of intolerance. I have effectively destroyed Cinco de Mayo, which was a stupid thing to observe anyway. You know, if you just want to have a party, have one on Tres de Mayo or Cuatro de Mayo or maybe even Seis. But Cinco de Mayo, why celebrate a momentary Mexican victory over a numerically inferior French force only to have that victory overturned about 2 weeks later and the French installed their guy? And that was it. But I have declared 2017 to be the year of intolerance. This is the year that we decide what we're not going to tolerate anymore, beginning with not spending our money where we don't, where this company uses my money and your money and the people in the audience's money to go and do things with political agendas and operations, whether it's an Open Societies Foundation or whether it's the Democratic Party, to do things against you. Quit spending your money with them. Find out who they are. All it takes is a simple Google search in most cases, and you can find out. But be discerning. Don't just, oh, you know, it's all good. No, it's not all good. It's only a little bit of good. Look back over the last century. Well, we were at peace most of the time. No, we weren't. We were at war most of the time with momentary little spikes of peace. I mean, how many do we need? World War I, the Roaring 20s. Oh, God, the Depression. Now World War II. Now Korea. Now Vietnam. Now the Middle East. I mean, how many blood? Listen, I saw this thing the other day. It was the most abominable thing I've ever seen, and I needed to see it. If you just type in article, Gone with the Wind, it'll come up about, just a few kids and women and dogs and cats and other human beings, just got hit by a U.S. airstrike. And you can actually see these two little girls, and they literally had their guts knocked out of them from the concussion wave. And I'm looking at this picture just going, I don't even know what I was feeling, but it was a very strange feeling. And ultimately, it's just wrong.
We saw that live in Libya, and
it's hard.
What they say it's acceptable collateral damage for their agenda.
Oh, really? Acceptable collateral damage?
Yeah.
Well, those people need to be the collateral damage. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, they're a bunch of spares. They're nothing but collateral anyway.
Exactly.
Okay, we're coming up on the last 30 seconds of the show, and I wanted to
I want to raise more hell.
Okay, listen, you want to come back Wednesday? You want to come back Wednesday, Monday, Wednesday? I can be your co-host on my show, sir. So I just wanted to thank you so very much for joining us, and let Brendy know that I enjoy speaking to her as well. A lovely lady in South Africa. And yes, it's time for white Europeans to stand up and take back the control that we built for the rest of the planet.
Defend Christendom. We are men of the West. Remember it.